Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Garnin.
Here.
Eaton.
Here.
And Jensen.
Here.
Well, as much as I want to welcome everybody to the meeting, I also want to welcome the opportunity for election of officers. Every August, this is what we do.
Oh, we just did that.
You know, I thought so too, but you know, especially when you're having this much fun, it just flies by then.
I think we ought to roll with what we got.
I did too. You guys haven't been in a long
I'm fine with that.
You're just coming up on your good time.
Can I make a motion just to roll as we are? Or is that the
By all
language?
means.
I've never had a chance to he always comes, so I haven't had my chance to be vice, but that's all right.
And I think we should let them go another few months here, if they're into it.
I'm all for it. I think we got a good man here and right and left. I think it's cool.
We got a good tag team going on here. I can always count on John, my wingman here.
So I do need a nomination for chair and a second and a vote, and then a nomination for vice chair, a second and a vote. So
Okay,
however you want to format it.
I'll start it out that I'll nominate Chris Garnin for chair.
Second. 2 seconds.
I think Gary seconded it.
Okay.
So
Vote.
So close nominations for that?
That's good.
You guys all good with that? Now you want to vote?
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Go ahead, Ron.
I'm doing them both.
Sure.
I'll nominate, I'd like to go ahead and have John right back in the seat that he's in now.
I second that.
Any other nominations? If not, I'll close nominations for vice chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Early August, we did that.
That was easy.
Very
Yeah, it comes fast.
Congratulations.
Thanks for your vote of confidence. I'm not too sure where we're headed here, but that's okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Public appearances in this meeting now. Per California state law, matters not on the agenda raised by the public will be automatically referred to staff or placed on the next meeting's agenda. Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time will be limited to 5 minutes. And please just address us on anything that is not on the agenda. No one would like to make the public appearance, so I'll go ahead and move on to the next part of the meeting, or public hearing. Thank you very much. Public hearings, item 1. General plan text amendment, chapter 1 land use, tables 3 and 4. The project consists of a text amendment to 2 tables located in chapter 1 of the City of Sonora general plan. Both table 3, the general plan 2020 land use designations and compatible Title 17 zoning classifications, and table 4, the summary of Title 17 revisions necessary for general plan 2020 consistency, are proposed for amendment to include the existing zoning districts listed in chapter 17 of the Sonora Municipal Code as compatible zoning districts for the general plan consistency. Staff.
Thank you, sir. At your place tonight was new table 3 and table 4. Want to just start to draw your attention to that because it is different than the one that was included in your packet. And what we did is, just for clarity purposes, in your packet we had included the combining districts in the R1 PD combining district in the various general plan designations on the first page of table 3, and instead of doing it that way, we took those off and just added the plan development combining district on the last section on that page 2. So instead of listing each and every one throughout, we just added it in as part of the combining districts. So any district in all the designations would be eligible for that combining district because you do have various ones throughout town already. So having drawn your attention to that, I'll switch and go into the analysis of the project for everybody. So as you know, we've been doing cleanups and working with the general plan as items come speaking of is one of the ones that repetitively comes up with people wanting to do different things in those districts or having a combining district already applied to their property. And one of the things that is a problem currently is that the districts that you have right now in your municipal code, Title 17, which establishes your zoning districts, were not included on the table in the general plan. So the city is in a situation where they've created non-conforming situations for consistency because there's districts in your zoning that aren't included in this table 3 of compatibilities. So what we did is we went through the Title 17 and inserted in that compatibility chapter in that table the districts and how they relate to your land use designations in the general plan. I want to be really clear, we did not remove anything. The land use designations of your general plan remain the same land use designations. We didn't change any densities. We didn't make any changes to the general plan land use designations other than to show where the compatible districts of your zoning ordinance fit within that general plan. Yes, sir.
Paul, just a quick question. The highlighting in the red,
Is the insertion.
those are the insertions that were to help make this all compatible and to read the general plan, the Title 17 zoning districts as consistent with the general plan.
Right.
All right, so those are all inserts.
Right, and you'll notice there's, the only deletions that occurred at all is in in Table 4, and that's where we deleted the notation of replacing the planned development zoning district, because you do have planned development districts throughout the town. There's quite a number of parcels currently zoned planned development. And the replacement that was noted was a new district to be created sometime in the future called special planning. And basically it's a similar district, it's more of a nomenclature issue at this point.
Yes, the SP.
Yes, the SP. By remaining with your planned development currently does not preclude you in the future from doing a different type of district if the city so wanted to do it. But by removing this, it does allow for the current planned developments in town to be able to link into conformity. So by adding that in with your Table 3 and also creating the deletion here in Table 4, that cleans that up for the short term until the city decides to do more on making any changes that they're going to make in the future, which they have not made the zoning changes noted here, and it hasn't been on the workflow agenda, so we wanted to make sure we were addressing the needs of the current property owners. So other than that, there's no changes to any of the descriptions of the land use designations or any changes there. It's merely adding in those districts from the municipal code to be compatible. The findings were listed in page 2 of your report, basically saying that the general plan text amendment is necessary for the reasonable controls and standards that affect the land uses and the compatibility and integrity of your uses here in town. And it doesn't affect any of the environmental concerns because we did not change any intensity or density of any of the land use designations. We did also provide you with a CEQA determination of an exemption because it doesn't affect any of those items. In any project coming forward, even within the land uses, if CEQA applies and it is a project, we would then at that level do the CEQA analysis necessary for the individual projects. But this item doesn't require.
Let me ask you another question. Would an example of this like be a non-conforming situation like where we have in town, we have many instances of, say, multifamily residential in commercial districts.
Not necessarily.
That's not-
A better example, it's not going to change if there is a parcel that is zoned something, for instance, on your general plan, you have estate residential. Okay, so the purpose of that is larger lots, agricultural, that kind of thing. Your agricultural residential zoning district, which is the implementing zoning for that, isn't listed at all in your general plan right now. So all of the agricultural residential properties are basically non-conforming because their district wasn't even listed in your general plan.
But they're in the municipal.
But they're in the municipal code. So it's clarifying the two documents. So normally what happens when you do a large general plan update, you concurrently move forward with changes so that you don't end up with this situation. But the city here has not done that. So this is a way to get those situations addressed in the short term while we're working to bring forward the general plan update to you that will address other issues.
So this is more of a reconciliation.
Exactly.
It's housekeeping.
With your Title 17 into your general plan.
I have a question. On page 1, we're talking here, the intensity and uses are allowed, they're not being changed with the amendment, only the name.
Right.
Are you saying, to make sure I understand this, the red marked areas are what you're talking about?
Exactly. So, for instance, on the table 3, all of the red are insertions. So, for instance, the first one says estate residential, and what was added in the compatibility table was the agricultural and residential district and the residential estate district, because those two are currently in your Title 17. If you'll note in the black that was listed under estate residential, neither one of those was included before.
Okay.
So we took your...
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we took your Title 17 districts and we looked to see which land use categories they were compatible with, and then we inserted them into that table in those cases.
Any other questions for staff? Very good. I'll open the public hearing. Anybody like to address the commission?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations on your re-election as chair of the Sonora City Planning Commission. My name is Sharon Maravich. I'm representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. I'm going to ask, I'm not all that knowledgeable on general plan and the compatible zoning that you have to have. What I do not understand, however, that I would like to ask to be clarified is on table 4, it clearly shows that you are not going to have the PD or the PD combining zone anymore. They're absolutely crossed out in red. And you are substituting what's called special planning. Then if you look at table 3, where it lists special planning toward the bottom, the next column over lists all the city zoning districts, and the next page it goes on to the next page. Some of them have PD after them, so I don't understand why they have PD instead of SP, since that is the new PD. And then on the next page of table 3, PD plan development is written in there as compatible zoning. So I don't know how you can, I don't understand how you have PD. Some places you have it totally X'd out as a zone you are not going to ever have again, and you're substituting it with SP, which is special planning. So I would just like to have that explained, because I didn't understand that.
I defer to Paula to explain it.
Okay. All right, so very good question. The the table 4, and that was the items that I was pointing out that were different in the staff report. So if you didn't pick up one of the newer handouts, you might want to get that. No, it's quite all right, because we changed it for clarity, for the exact reason I think you're asking. So the table 4 had the notation, and the deletion is what is proposed. In the current general plan, they were recommending to delete and get rid of the planned development district in chapter 17. That never occurred. You have numerous properties around town that are either a straight PD zone or a PD combining zone, where they applied the PD with the underlying zoning district, like an R1 PD or an R3 PD or a COPD. So our recommendation is that you delete that portion of table 4 that is saying to remove the PDs, because you have them in town, and until the city is ready to do something else with those properties on a zoning level, you need to have it compatible in your general plan. We are not proposing to remove the idea of a special planning district, whether it be residential or special planning mixed use in the general plan. Instead, what we're saying is that the planned unit, the planned development zoning district, whether it be the combining district or the PD, would be allowed in place of that. So it's not one or the other, they work together now with the changes that are proposed.
Maybe in order to help answer Sharon's question, it might be important to distinguish what's the difference between table 3 and table 4.
Okay, so the last page is table 4, and that was revisions that were proposed. And not all general plans have this in it, by the way. This is something that's unique to some degree to Sonora's general plan. You don't have to create new districts when you're doing your general plan. There looks to be a discussion of what the next implementation stage of the general plan adoption process was back when they adopted your current general plan. And table 4 was the thoughts for how that would be accomplished and what new districts they might adopt to do that. In doing that, that third section was replacing the PD with this new special planning zoning district, which does not currently exist today. And there's no language in your municipal code at all that says special planning. So we're recommending at this time to take that language out because it doesn't exist. And then in table 3, where it's dealing with the compatibilities, and it lists your general plan designation, and then on that other column, which districts meet that zoning designation's compatibility, that we continue to allow the compatibility with the planned development in all the districts where they are currently zoned that way, or in the combining districts where they are currently in a combining district situation.
Did that help you, Sharon?
No, it doesn't. I went over and got one of those that I didn't have, which it turned out I did have, and that's table 3. On the first column, it lists all the zones that your general plan says you're going to have. And then within those are certain, you break it down into R1, R2, R3, and so on. But page 2 clearly states planned development.
I'm sorry, Sharon. Page 2 is part of table 3.
Okay.
It ran into the next page.
Okay, I'm still referring to this. All right. What I'm referring to is what's called table 3.
Right.
All right. There's no PD appears on the front here. What is special planning, which is supposed to be replacing planned unit development. Then my page 2 says here's planned development PD and planned development PD. So are you going to have both PD and SP?
Okay, so this, no, yes and no. This table on this side, because it's apples and oranges. This column is your land use designations. Those are the designations in the general plan.
I understand that.
On this side is your zoning districts in chapter 17. We're going to have both because in the general plan, it calls it special planning residential land use designation. The chapter 17 district that currently exists is PD. So we're going to have both. So one's one level, one's the next. The thing to note also is on the second page, this column continues and it says all designations. So on the second page, the Park and Rec, the open space, the public, and the planned development districts are allowed as compatible in all districts. And then the combining districts, which are also allowed in all districts where they're combined with the underlying district, are the ones that are listed, and we inserted the planned development into that as a combining district as well.
So what's the purpose of having an SP district if you're going to keep the planned development?
The SP designation deals with the land use designation of special planning residential and special planning mixed use. In your general plan, you have land uses that are designated for that. And so we are not at this time recommending to remove that because we're not doing a general plan map amendment, and we're not proposing to change that. The light blue, and we don't have a general plan map in here. The light blue general plan designation, for instance, on your general plan map is the special planning district, mixed use. And in the general plan discussion of that land use designation, it talks about how there could be a mix of uses that would be allowed depending on the proposal that a property owner were to bring forward, and it would be an organized plan type of development. That's the general plan designation. One way to implement that is to do a planned development zoning district where you take the zoning for that property, and in a planned development ordinance, you lay out those special, and you can allow the mix of uses and different setbacks, and you can basically customize the zoning district.
Exactly, you do things that the zone would not normally allow.
Right.
The question I have is, has the city council adopted the definition of special commercial, SP, and how it relates to PD?
That's what we're doing right now.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah. So the planned development was not previously included in this table, and we are including it so that it'll correct that nonconformity.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission? Any questions?
Well, Carol's coming up. Sharon, one thing, we are looking right now at the different designations, as you guys know. And we are looking at doing an update to the general plan as well as to the Title 17 and make them more consistent, because then this is kind of a first step. When it's all said and done, we're not exactly sure what zoning districts are going to flush out, but this is the first step into getting everything consistent so we can keep moving forward while we kind of look at what we're going to propose to the Planning Commission and the City Council on the final designations as well as zoning districts when we're all done going through the process.
I'm not sure that helped me, because now I'm confused. Because you had said in the general plan update, they plan to get rid of the planned development zone, but they didn't.
Right.
So you were recommending that they remove the planned developments to be compatible. And if I wrote it down correctly, it would be called a special plan with the general plan. But that's not what you just said to Sharon.
Okay. So in the general plan currently,
Yeah.
Table 4, there is a recommendation to remove the planned development zoning district and replace it with a new one that doesn't exist today called special planning.
And that was the original what was planned for the general plan.
That's what's
That
currently
wasn't-
in the general plan right now. That was adopted as part of that
But
update
it
that they
wasn't
did.
really done.
But they never did that.
Okay.
So what we're recommending is you remove that portion of the general plan right now, since the plan development is in existence, which then allows the plan development to be added back into the table 3, which shows your compatibility. So then it merges. Does that make it clear? Okay.
I guess.
It's confusing. It's very confusing.
Very technical.
So let me try it one more time and see if this makes it muddier. Currently in the general plan, there is a land use designation called special planning. There's 2 of them, one for residential and one for special planning. Those designations were designed for larger areas or areas in existence where there was a mix of use. Okay. It was acknowledged, and I'm speaking based on the research I've done. I was not here when that general plan was adopted, so this is what I found looking back through things and my interpretation of the general plan. There are places in town where you have either property or uses that don't fit into any one district. And so the idea was to create a large enough area that a developer could come and put together different parcels into a larger project and do some type of a master planned scenario in those areas. And that was given the name of a special planning. Plan development is an implementing tool for that type of a land use designation. You've already got that implementing tool in your municipal code in Title 17. They were recommending, instead of having 2 different names, that they change the plan development district to be called special planning. But they didn't ever do that. And you have all of these parcels in town right now that have that Title 17 plan development. So we're recommending that instead of doing apples and oranges at this stage, you leave your Title 17 zoning alone and you just include it as an acceptable implementation district for the special planning land use designations on the map.
For the short term.
For the short term, until we come back with any kind of change to the general plan. Does that make it muddier or clearer?
I'll just ask one more question. Is there any reason why one size can't fit all? Why SP cannot be the zone that allows you the flexibility for a mixed-use development or an apartment complex that might have more than the zoning allows, but they're going to have less setback and they're going to have 3 stories and all of that? Like, why can't one size fit all?
It could. It could. Right now, we're trying to get the compatibility to work in the short term in the way that has the least impact to property owners overall. If we were to go forward and call the planned development zoning district in Title 17 SP, and it's really just a name change from PD to SP, we would have to notify each and every property owner of every planned development or combined planning development on the map. And similar to the other rezones we've done in the last year, we'd have to go through a rezoning process on each and every currently zoned planned development property. So instead of going through that process, which we thought would be much more expensive and not necessarily going to address all the concerns long term, that bringing it forward in this format was a better alternative for now.
This is really trying to take the elements of the Title 17 and have them sing in the same band as the general plan designation.
Right. Under your current general plan, we are working on amendments to the general plan. So whether you call it SP in the future or not will be up to you when we bring that forward. We're just trying to get it to work today because there are people, and another item on your agenda tonight is a perfect example, who have this designation currently on their property. And so you created a non-conforming situation for them.
Well, the general plan's kind of a living thing anyway. It goes through periodic amendments and updates.
Paula, what is the next step if we approve this?
This is we're asking for a recommendation from you for approval of this, and then we will take it to the city council and have a similar public hearing before the council and explain what we're doing. And hopefully the council will vote to approve it by resolution. That then will be it for this item. Then all these zoning districts that you currently have will be in compliance with the land use designations of your general plan.
So there's going to be more opportunity for more input and input from the people in this community.
Right.
When we go to the city council, this isn't the final shot.
Right.
And we're just moving this like it is. Nobody has to be informed that anything is changing, no property owners or.
Right, because we're not
Doesn't affect
rezoning,
anyone.
we're not
No
rezoning
rezoning.
anybody's property.
No.
We are allowing the current zones in your Title 17 to be noted as compatible with your general plan. And then when we do start talking about changes to the general plan, that'll be a whole separate process where we will bring it to you in a workshop format, and we will give the public lots and lots of opportunities to talk to you and to us about the proposed changes.
I have closed the public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to address the commission? No, I close the public hearing. Bring it back to the commission. Gentlemen?
I'd like to make a motion to, that we adopt the attached resolution recommending the Sonora City Council approval of the attached resolution to amend the general plan, chapter 1, table 3, 4, and A.
I'll second.
As is.
Very good. Motion by Commissioner Jensen, second by Commissioner Richardson. Any other discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much, and thanks for explaining that.
Wow, so it's kind of where you're headed.
Second item in the public hearings, application by Malcolm Maxwell for a plan review in an existing plan development zone, you've heard this one before, haven't you? To construct a new garage located at 701 Old Buchanan, Old Bald Mountain Road. The assessor parcel number is 044-36004.
Okay, so this project is before you. It's a plan development, which is what we were just talking about. Also at your place tonight are the large 24 by 36 maps, so you can see clearer in case there are any additional questions. I know the one in your packet was a little difficult to read, so I want to make sure you have access to that. Excuse me. The applicant is under plan development zoning. So in that zoning district, there is the approval of the setbacks and allowed uses and things like that. The background on this property is that area was developed back in the 70s, and a number of larger lots were put together by a developer, and EIR was done on it, and the plan development zoning was applied. Before that, it was an R2, which is a limited multifamily zoning district, and it was changed over to PD. In the surrounding areas on the land use, they went with a high-density residential within that PD. So there's multifamily that surround this parcel, but they all have the PD zoning. So the plan for that zoning was the underlying plans for those multifamily residential areas, and then this parcel was included as part of all of that as planned development. But there was never really anything adopted for that, other than their building permit when they came in as single family. So fast forward to the current time, page 2 has a picture of the aerial of the area and also a very small plot plan layout for you, which is a copy of the large ones that was at your place tonight. The property currently has a single-family residential house on it. The applicant has been at this location for the last 20 years or so, and is requesting now to build a garage to house large vehicles, his workshop area, and then other storage that would be single-family residential storage in the garage. The consistency issue that we just talked about on the last agenda item does affect this project, in that if the commission approves the addition of the garage into this planned development as an accessory to the single-family residential use that is currently there, it would be contingent on the city council approval of that general plan amendment we just.
The resolution we just,
Right. So that's how we get to consistency on this project, is with that amendment. If council decides not to approve that, that would affect this project. So your approval and motion would include that condition of approval if the commission decides to vote that way. We also looked at the site plan, and the size of the properties is 2.5 acres. So there's no setback issue with adjacent property owners. It's well within the confines of the property, meeting setbacks and things of that nature. And from a CEQA standpoint, it would be exempt from CEQA as per section 15303 of the categorical exemptions in CEQA. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
commissioners? Any questions of staff? Before I open the public hearing for this, I usually ask the applicant to be here. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Would you like to address the commission on any of this?
No, I'm fine with everything.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing then. Would anybody like to comment or address the commission on this? 8 minutes after. If not, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission.
Does that mean me?
I make a motion to approve as recommended with the conditions.
I'll second it.
It's fine with me.
I just want to say I went down and met Mr. Maxwell on his property, and there's a ton of room down there. I mean, it's just an amazing piece of property that's hidden in the trees.
Yeah.
It's a good project to be passed.
It appears on the map that there's more than ample space to do this. Motion by Commissioner Eaton and seconded by Commissioner Jensen to approve with the findings A through F, and then how many findings do we have here? 5 findings.
5 conditions.
5 conditions, all right. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say I've seen the property develop through the years. He spent a lot of hard work and time down there. It's a very fine piece of property. And this type of thing is what the county needs, is growth, building. And when this starts to happen, I'm very much for it. And I think it's a great area, so I think it's a great thing that he's doing, period.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you very much. Third item tonight is an application by Sonora Lumber for a sign exception request to increase the allowable size of a new wall sign to 291 square feet located at 730 South Washington Street in a C commercial zone. Assessor parcel number is 0565019. Paul?
Okay, thank you very much. The applicant is here tonight, and they have requested a sign exception for 730 South Washington. I do want to bring to your attention that the public hearing notice and the amount on the agenda is been altered in your staff report. We looked at the original one and did notice it as the applicant had originally submitted it and requested it. But based on just the size of it, we talked to the applicant and they have reduced the request. So what's presented in your staff report is a reduced request. They're no longer asking for 290 square feet. The request before you tonight is 174, sorry, 174. So to point that out to start with, there has been quite a reduction from the
So they
original
didn't even have
request.
the paint, hardware, electrical, plumbing, tools, and gift part.
No, they still have that. The whole thing was a lot bigger to start with.
Than what we have.
And they've reduced it down to what you have now.
So what we have in our packet for this
Shows-
specific project shows it is 174 feet, but in the agenda that I just read off, that's mistaken, that's 208.
It was the original.
That was
They
original.
have
So that just
reduced it.
wasn't changed in our agenda.
Right, because that was their original request. So they've already reduced what they're requesting from the 290 down to the 174, is what I want to say.
Is that the one we have in there?
Yeah. So what they are currently requesting is an exception for the size of 174 and some change square feet. There's a couple things I want to walk through with the process of the sign exception, just to make sure we're all clear. The municipal code in your sign ordinance does allow for an applicant to request a sign exception to your sign ordinance. As part of that, there's two things in particular that the sign ordinance calls out, and that is that the applicant needs to set forth and prove that the exception does not constitute a special privilege inconsistent with other properties in the vicinity in the same zone. And number two, that the exception is not injurious to the neighborhood and is consistent with the intent of this chapter being the sign ordinance. On the top of page 2, we added in so that the commission would have at their fingertips what the intent and purpose of the sign ordinance was. And that was there for your use as you were reviewing this. The graphic of figure 1 is what is proposed, and the size of the building frontage with the sign that has been requested. There's two elements to the sign. I call this the name plaque, and then these are the products and services. So on the next page, we provided numbers for the Planning Commission dealing with the size of each of those components. This is a request for a wall sign. So the first portion of what is the wall and how much would be allowed is the top of the table there before you. The overall wall frontage is 3,500 square feet and some change, 3,504. The ordinance says that you can have 20% of your wall frontage covered with a sign up to 90 square feet maximum. So if you apply the 20% of the wall frontage to the 35, because this is a large building, you get 700 and some change square feet. So obviously that's well above the 90 square feet that would be allowed. So then your maximum comes into play. Since this is a single occupant type of structure and it's a large structure, we also wanted to do a comparison of apples to apples with other large user, large buildings. And so the only other ones in town that were similar were the Lowe's, the Walmart, and the Orchards. Those were the ones that we felt were the most similar to this request. Based on that, we added in the 3% of wall frontage that a shopping center anchor is allowed, because 2 of those 3 are located within a shopping center. And that 3% would then be 105 square feet, if you applied that to their building frontage. We'll talk about the applicability of that in a minute. The Sonora lumber with the logo, including the forklift logo, is 132 square feet. The proposed services and products that would be in a line across the bottom is 41 square feet. So the whole signage that's currently being requested is 174 square feet. Everybody with me on all the numbers so far?
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're following.
The applicant is requesting to have the 174 square feet. There's a couple things that we thought would help the planning commission in this decision, and that is, like I said, looking at other similar type of structures and single users. One thing I do want to note is that the Lowe's and the Walmart both are in a general commercial zone. This property is zoned commercial. The Orchards is zoned commercial. So that's the only one that's in the same zoning district. The Lowe's and the Walmart have, Lowe's had 144 square feet of signage. Walmart had 190 square feet of signage. The Orchards had multiple signage on it. It has their logo circle, which was 80 square feet. And then they had two words that were included where it said hardware and something else. And when you included all the signage, on the wall frontage, it was 126 square feet to give you comparable amounts. The Orchards is the only one that is in the same zoning district as what's requested before you tonight.
How much did they have?
They had a total of 126. Their logo sign was 80, which conformed to
200.
Pardon me?
Their logo and their signage came
What?
to 200?
No, their logo and signage together with the hardware is 126 square feet. The logo alone was 80. So the circle that says
How big was the old JS West sign?
a lot bigger than that.
Hey, I was just going to ask this.
Yeah.
Page 3, if you look at the figure 2 previous signage,
Yeah.
that was a pretty big sign. I mean, it was far more than.
I liked it, I could see it from a long way.
Yeah.
Right. So that brings me to the next point, my staff report. Thank you. Figure 2 was what was there before.
Right.
And that was much bigger even than the...
Than what's proposed.
Exactly.
How did they manage that?
Sir, I cannot answer that question. I was not
Urban
here and I have
signs?
no idea.
Yeah.
So maybe they got variance.
No, we don't
We
have
didn't
that on
ask.
record.
We have to.
That building was there, I don't know.
How big was the hell sign? So it was
It was
bigger.
Filled up that whole facade.
We did not have
They
anything,
got
when I
variance.
pulled the permit file on it, there was no notation in there of any variance or exception or anything, so that's the only answer I can give you. So, before you tonight is the opportunity to either grant its approval, conditionally approve, or deny this application. We have put together a couple of conditions. If you choose to approve the project as requested, that staff feels need to be included in the approval as a conditional approval if you decide to approve it. If you decide you want to deny the sign exception, you could do that, and the applicant would then need to reduce the sign down to 90 square feet. There's a couple of ways that that could be accomplished. They could remove the products and services. That's 40 square feet right there. That could be removed. And then they could reduce the logo nameplate down to be within the 20 square feet. You could approve part of the signage requested and deny part of it. For instance, you could approve only the Sonora lumber at the size that it has been submitted, And that is one of the conditional approvals that staff listed. It's number 2. We also suggest if you approve the signing request, that the canopy for the small sign cabinet that's currently on the facade of the building be removed as part of this as a cleanup measure. Right now, the sign is externally lit only, and that is the applicant's intention of how it would be lit in the future. So we would include that in the conditions as well. So there's 3 conditions that deal with the signage itself that staff would recommend if you wanted to approve the project. The other 2 are our standard ones about meeting all other requirements and the indemnification. So the applicant is here tonight as well, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions if anybody has any.
Anybody have any other questions for Paula? The applicant, is the applicant here, would like to address the commission, or you gonna roll the dice?
It seems pretty straightforward. We think we have a great plan and design that Judy put forward, and it seems to fit the building, and so we're kind of looking forward to going forward with it. If we can, and get out and do what we do, so to speak.
Thank you, sir. We'll open the public hearing. Sharon?
Well, we don't want to speak unless he wants to say more. He should speak at the public hearing.
Were you done, sir, or?
Does he want to say any more?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
You're up, Sharon.
Okay. My name is Sharon Maravich. I'm representing the Tuolumne Heritage Committee. We would prefer that the Planning Commission stick with the 90 square foot maximum signage size that everyone else in the city of Sonora abides by. With the Vision Sonora program moving along, now is not the time, if there ever was a time, for bigger signs to be appearing in Sonora. And we are concerned about the precedent that your approval would set. This building is at the southern gateway to Sonora's historic district and is an important part of the view shed there. In fact, it may be the last building left from when the Standard Lumber Company had a rather large installation on both sides of South Washington Street. We're glad that the 291 square foot signage is off the table now, because that's over 3 times the limit that you are allowed to have. And that would definitely be too much for the building and the neighborhood, and we would not have ever supported that. We do not support the 174 square feet. That is a proposal that the property owners have come up with. That's roughly twice the size of a sign that everyone else in the city of Sonora has complied with. So we would suggest that you check. We believe you should stay as close to the 90 square feet as possible, and therefore we support the staff proposal that appears on page 4 of your report. If the Planning Commission denies the sign exception, the applicant would need to reduce the size of the sign to conform with the 90 square feet stated in the sign ordinance. This would be accomplished with the removal of the product and services signage and reducing the size of the overall name logo sign or the removal of the logo and scaling the name plaque to 90 square feet. As an aside, we think that's a fair thing to do. It puts the property owner in conformance with your ordinance, and as I say, with an ordinance that at times has become controversial. But 90 square feet is what everyone else lives with, and we would suggest that the property owner think in terms of 90 square feet. As just a personal aside, I think it's wonderful that Calaveras Lumber has decided to have a location in the city of Sonora, and is a very productive and important part of the city's economic engine. But they are requesting, the bottom line is they're requesting almost twice, they're requesting 6 square feet less than double what everyone else gets. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the commission? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Judy Grossman, and I have JG Signs and Designs, and I designed the sign. When the applicant came to me, they have a totally different logo and letter style that they use for their logo, and they wanted to make sure that a historic building like they're in right now respected the fact that they were in a historic building and they wanted a historic look to the signage. So in designing it, we wanted to keep that flavor and the respect of a color scheme that is subdued and respectful to the area as well. And just wanted to make you aware of the fact that every other large building that is as large as Sonora Lumber is in a shopping center where they are the anchors. Usually they're the anchors of the center, and they have their name also on the shopping center anchor sign. So they have signage that isn't even included in their square footage that is right out on the road. This building is a standalone building, and it doesn't have any other signage, any signage that's perpendicular to the road. It doesn't have any other available signage that they're planning on doing. This is the only area that they have their sign planned for. At the same time, we wanted to be respectful that we didn't think that it needed to be as large as the JS West sign or the Hills and Simon signs that were there before. So if it was reduced down to 90 square feet, the 90 square feet would look like a postage stamp on a very large envelope. And I don't think that that is a fair representation for a business this size. And for a building this size, it would really look ridiculous to have something, you wouldn't even be able to see it from coming down Mono Way. You wouldn't be able to see their name coming down from Mono Way. So that's their primary visibility, is from a distance and drive-by. So I respectfully request that you allow that. And the signage that has the departments on the fascia overhang is not garish, not bold. It's very simple in its style, and it also reflects the same kind of signage that say Safeway has. Safeway has deli. They have all these department heads listed on the front of their building, and so this is the same kind of department identification to let people know that they just don't sell lumber alone. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the commission? If not, close the public hearing, bring it back to commission.
We got a two-headed sword here. We're trying to have a business prosper in a competitive world. At the same time, we're concerned about the future of Sonora and how it looks. And you look at the sign they've had before out there is quite large, and this is smaller. I like the way the printing has been done. It's historic. Doesn't look like the middle of San Francisco. It has a taint of historic mountain decor, so to say. They are in business. Is there any possibility of a compromise down from the 174? I mean, you take like we're looking at a huge building with a little teeny sign. It doesn't really look, I don't know if that's gonna fit. I mean, it's a big building.
Did they already compromise already, down from a larger sign?
They did.
Could they go a little farther down and still be in the realm of being accepted? I mean, we've got two sides. We're worried about vision, we're worried about trying to have a historic community with huge signs, but yet this is a business all by itself sitting over there. They have to advertise, they have to survive, they've got a lot of competition. With the other entities around, is there any possibility of coming down to like 130 square feet and just slowly shrink it down more, but not all the way down? Is that a possibility?
I'm sure it is. Are there commissioners anything?
Well, you look at this building, it's a huge building, the whole face, like she said, it's gonna look like a little postage stamp on the side of this building. It has to be symmetrical for a business to have. I mean, you drive by Safeway, you wanna see a little Safeway sign there, you drive by Walmart, are they gonna have two signs on Walmart now?
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
And Orchard, they've got more than they're allowed. It's just, it's a beautiful sign. They did a really good job designing it. And the size, yeah, it's over the limit, but maybe we need to change some things.
That's
as
why
far as that goes.
that's why there's exceptions.
That's why it's in front of you tonight.
Yeah, I like this comment, and I'm not just stating this based on what was there, but knowing how big the JS West sign, the Hills and Simon signs were in the past, I've never found any of that visually offensive. For that large a facade, for that entrance to Sonora, that gateway, whatever, I've never found any of that distasteful. I always felt it was kind of a very pleasant beacon to attract people to the business that they're trying to, bring it to. So I find that given the facade and the amount of space, I think Judy's comments were spot on as far as, I'm not just trying to fill this thing up, but this is more of a mural than a sign, if that's the right way to put it. And I think that this building would be seriously lost in any compromise below the 174 that's requested. I don't have a problem with any of this, especially given that it's a blank palette. So I have no problem with it. I don't think we're going to compromise the sign ordinance either in order to accomplish something to help a business prosper.
It's much more pleasing of a sign that's ever been there.
Well, given that we're considering an exception here, we have to consider that the exception is valid. And I agree, I think this is valid exception to the sign ordinance, given the size of the building and the history of the building having signage for decades.
One thing
Larger.
you all finished there, I was gonna.
Well, they might put the electrical first, I don't know if they consider it.
I mean, this doesn't mean, I mean, this is a really unique building. I mean, this is a huge building. It's been here since I was 10 years old. I used to go out there and buy parts for my roller coaster. And you can't change the size. In the future, new businesses coming in, the new signage may have to come down to conform, but this is a unique building. It's big, and if you bring this down to 90 square feet, how are you helping these people do business? It's like I said, it's a tough one. This is really hard. But
The building looks silly.
I think this is at one time we're going to have to kind of go with. I have to say, I don't know how I could not go for this as it is, because it's a unique situation. It's not just typical. That's been there forever, and it does not offend people that I've seen. Other signs coming in this county that's big, I would say, hey, wait a minute. We can't do this, but this is so different. I'm going to have to move to approve it because of the uniqueness.
Oh, I've been good with this when I first read it.
Okay.
It's a really beautiful sign, and it's historic, and so I'm going to move to approve it based on, and it's a unique, but I have to do it.
Commissioner
Findings,
Hudson,
wherever they are, the general
when you
conditions.
John, when you make your motion, can you pick which conditions that you want to be attached? Because
One of the
There are-
conditions, those were suggestions.
Yeah, those are suggestions, so you need to tell us which.
It's fine wherever they are.
4 and 5 would definitely be in place. 3.
It's on page 4.
It's on page 4, but,
Okay, yeah, well, let's bring that into the picture then.
so you need to make that as part of your condition, or your approval.
Okay, I move that we approve the sign based on you're talking about the conditions here on the bottom of 4?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Based on the conditions for approval for sign exception. Based on those, we approve it on those
I'm not sure I understand.
conditions.
Are you getting rid of all these small electrical?
That's what we need to do as part of the condition. So these are just they're options that you guys have. So the first one is to remove condition number 1 would be to remove the small side cabinet.
No.
And I don't think, is there a concern on that one? That's kind of a cleanup. That one can go. That's not an issue for them. That's something that was part of
No.
JS
Do you
West.
want to get rid of that, John?
I don't. I want to go right the way it is.
We like the way it's.
Just as is, the way it is, the conditions for approval for sign
And
exception.
item 2, which is the products and services banner, that's part of the new sign. You want to leave that in there too?
Yeah,
So
the
two.
whole thing, as is.
I want to just make sure everybody understands what number 1 was. If you look at the previous signage on the JS, there's a little red cabinet right here that has no signage in it right now. And would not be allowed to have any signage in it because that's not part of their sign plan. So condition 1 is to remove that metal signage.
I'm not sure I see what you're talking about.
It's a little red spot down the bottom. I
They
didn't
used
really
to
see
have-
that.
Yeah, that's why I want to clarify it.
I
There used
think-
to be a J.C. Penney sign or something in
Yes.
there. There's no sign in
They
there,
don't-
and they're
they
not
don't. It doesn't
proposing
need
to
to be
put
there.
signage in there.
Okay.
So that metal cabinet is what we're talking about being removed. It's
And
just-
you're okay with that?
You're okay with it? All right.
They-
Yeah,
they don't have a
I
problem.
will go along. I didn't even see, notice that that was a sign or whatever.
Well, I read cabinet, but I couldn't imagine what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's small.
Okay, so John, as part of your motion, you want to amend it just to say that
Yeah.
that would be removed.
I would like to amend to remove that small, if you want to call it a sign or whatever.
So you're gonna approve it with condition number 1, which is to remove that little red
Right.
cabinet, and they don't have a problem with that. But you want to allow them to have the listing of the products,
Right.
and so you wouldn't be including condition number 2.
Right.
But you would include condition number 3, which is to have it externally lit.
Yes.
Which is what they're doing, and then 4 and 5 are just our standard conditions. So really, you just are gonna eliminate item number 2.
Right. And I didn't see that little red picture.
Can I just back up for a second? Would be wise to approve this without prejudice, to make sure that there's no problem with any other businesses that would see an exception to this?
I'm okay with
Would
that.
that be all right?
Yeah.
Let's put that in there.
Would you amend your motion?
Yeah, I can amend to put that in without prejudice because it is kind of a unique situation.
Yeah, I don't want the, just because the barn doors open, all the horses to come flying.
Right, and like I said, another sign in another area of this big, I could say no, but this is,
It is only for this sign as approved in this packet for this location.
Right.
That's it. Anybody else who wants an exception would have to present it to you.
What's the harm of putting that language in this motion?
It's just not necessary.
And I don't know if it's,
This is just for the exception.
and if
This
they can't
is an
be,
exception for this signage only. It doesn't apply to anywhere else. in-
well, everybody would automatically know that. We don't need
yeah,
without
they have
prejudice.
to meet the exception requirements, and if they can't meet those requirements, then you guys.
I'm just making a
Does
suggestion.
this go to city council?
No, it ends unless there was an appeal.
Stops.
It would be an appeal.
No, this is kind of an exception, but that's the way I think. So I'm all for it.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you very much. You guys are doing nice work down there, too.
That's about time you got a sign on that building.
You have a great inventory.
I like that forklift on there too. Give those guys some recognition.
Thank you. Nice work again. All right, discussion, community developer director.
Yeah, I just have a couple real quick things. One is, we will definitely have a September meeting. I know that you guys don't always have back-to-back meetings, but we will have a September meeting. So,
Must be to double our pay or something.
yeah,
We get something for this?
we'll double your pay. You'll get paid 2 months in a row. That's a shock. So just if you can keep your schedule open. Quite possibly you also have a November meeting, but we're not sure. It might get pushed off to December, so, because I won't be here in November, so if, Paula might be here by herself if we need to have a November meeting. Again, we are working on the general plan update and the Title 17. Paula will be working on that. We're going to have some workshops and things that go along with that. So eventually this is all going to make more sense, but right now we're just trying to keep everything rolling along and trying to decide what is the best option for the city on kind of making it easier for people in the city with our general plan and our Title 17. So you will see that. And the ARCO is still on hold, so that hasn't come back to you, and I just wanted to let you know it's still floating out there, but we don't have anything yet to bring forward to you. And when we do, it will come in the meetings.
The ARCO.
The ARCO project. So we haven't finalized
What's going on with corner gas?
with corner gas.
Why is that still there? I mean, is it
Sure.
going to stay there?
Oh, you mean the one there by the new outpatient
Yeah.
pavilion? That's currently the city administrator, that's his project, he took the lead on that, and they are eventually, they're working on negotiations on that. It'll actually be acquired, the parking lot will be, or whether it's in whole or in part, I don't know. They could, it might just be the portion that's needed to do that intersection. But then the city would move, that'll be a city project to get that intersection widened. And if the city acquires the whole parcel, eventually the other part would be sold back when the project was done. But it's moving forward, and that's being done by the city administrator. And outpatient pavilion's moving along, and Walmart's, Walmart's getting there. I mean, the exterior is pretty much up, and they'll be doing some more work out in the parking lot. And getting some of the landscaping and those things started, so.
Thanks you guys for your
That's
hard
it.
work again.
Hey, no problem. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. It's adjourned.